Hello, I'm Jordan Dahl, and welcome back to LinkedIn News Live, where the business conversation begins with you. Nearly 6 in 10 workers are either considering leaving their job or have actively started looking to change industries. It's part of what LinkedIn likes to call the Great Reshuffle, as people are reassessing what work and career means to them. Joining me today to discuss the latest Workforce Confidence Index is Senior Editor at Large for LinkedIn News, George Anders. George, welcome to the show.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
So, you have this great report out today showing what the top factors are for why people are leaving their jobs and shifting industries. What can you tell us that is behind this shift?
So the biggest thing that's going on is people would like to make more money, and that's eternal. We find 54% of people, when you ask them, why do you want to change industries? Better compensation is at the top of the list. But the factor that intrigues me is the second one, which is better alignment with my values. And 48% of the people we surveyed said that's what's driving them. So there you're getting at this feeling of, you know what? There are things I care about in the world, whether it's honesty or trust or teamwork, and I'm not getting it from my current job. I'd like to look somewhere else. I think one of the things that's happened with the pandemic is people have had time to rethink, what am I really trying to get out of work? Where am I trying to take my life? And a lot of times that's translating into people who say, I want to make a fresh start with my career. I think there's something better than what I have right now.
It's fascinating to me that more opportunities to move up is actually beneath better alignment with my values. We're seeing that workers are really putting their own ideas front and center. And with this tight labor market and workers, really having more power in this dynamic, they are looking for new things. But what are they asking for from their new employers?
So we see flexibility as a big element, more flexible work hours that connects with 36% of the people we surveyed, more flexible work from home policy that connected with 34%. And when we drill down a little bit farther, what we see is that female respondents, that's an even bigger priority for them. That's 40% or more. Men, not so much. Flexibility in both of its forms is more around 29, 30%. We're not seeing that much of an insistence on bigger benefits, better benefits. I mean, that's on the list, but that's at 29%. Job stability, that's also relatively low. And at the very bottom of the list is less chance of exposure to COVID. That's a surprise. I mean, COVID's been in the headlines pretty much nonstop for almost 2 years now. But I think people have settled into the kind of jobs where they feel their COVID risk is not really that much of a concern. There are a few industries where that is an issue. Healthcare it is, education it is. But beyond that, the factors that we've discussed before, more pay, alignment with values, that just seems to be more important.
Absolutely. Our frontline workers are still very much at the front of this pandemic and interacting with that. I want to say hello to some of the members who are joining in the stream. Hello to Louise from Brazil, Kelly from Florida, Susan from New York. Thank you so much for joining us today. Now, George, you touched on this a little bit, but I want to dive a bit deeper. How are men and women stacking up in this? What are some of the differences that you're seeing in what the different genders are asking for in a workplace?
So one of the other things we did is we went to the people who were saying, hey, I like my current job. I'm not eager to switch industries. I'm where I want to be. And satisfaction with the current work was higher among women than it was among men, less of a sense of restlessness. But the biggest switch was the one we already covered, which is for women, flexibility is more important. And that's going to be particularly true for working parents. As much as we would like to see a world where parenting responsibilities are divided 50-50, there's still an awful lot of situations where more of the burden falls on the mom. And in that case, flexibility is something that's really non-negotiable. You got to have that ability to function in both worlds and to clear out family time when you need it, as opposed to being tethered to a job that just does not give you that chance.
Absolutely. We've seen how women are facing an entirely different pandemic and recession from the rest of their peers. Now, one thing that you did dive into further that I thought was super interesting is what leads the most to job satisfaction? What can you tell us about that, whether on-site, remote, flexible, gives people the most joy?
All of those are factors, really. But flexibility, very much so. I usually think of money as like the fourth most important thing in your life. It matters for everyone, but sense of fulfillment, sense of mission, those are important too. And I think that's again, something that's come up more than we would have seen a couple of years ago. People are really looking at their job as more than a job. They're looking at it as a calling, a chance to have a positive impact on the world, a chance to be connected with people that matter. And yeah, and if you've got flexibility, the rest of your life is in more balance. And also that commitment, that feeling that you're working somewhere that their values are your values.
Absolutely. We're seeing that with the stats that you pointed out at the very beginning of the show around, the second biggest factor for people is going to a job that better aligns with their values. And now when people do make that shift, whether it's to a new job or to a different industry, how are they faring? Are they staying put once they make that shift? Are they happy in this new role that they have?
So we're seeing a lot of movement. In a headline statistic that got attention, 4.3 million people quit their jobs in August. That's the most recent month that we have data for. That's a record. We've never had that many people walk away. And most of them are starting over in another industry. We've had worked by our economic graph team that's looked at fields that are almost revolving doors. And I'll showcase real estate as the first example. There are a lot of people who are moving into real estate. It looks interesting. The idea of setting your own hours, getting a big payday when you sell property. It's exciting. There are also a lot of people moving out of real estate because the truth is, for everyone who's making a high 5-figure or 6-figure income in real estate, there are a lot of people who are picking up maybe $10,000, $20,000 a year. They're part-time in real estate. They're showing a lot of houses, but they're not really getting the sales. So that's a field where there's high turnover. And I think that's kind of the stage we're at. There's a restlessness. People aren't quite sure where they want to land, but they're willing to try something new. And then there's some other fields that people are outright moving out of and some that they're moving into. But I think the overall trend is churn and exploration and a lot of transitory arrangements.
Sounds like we are still in the middle of this great reshuffle, and there will be a lot more changes to come. Eric is in the stream, and he wants to know, does the data show how many are switching because they want full remote jobs? And George, we are actually seeing some data on this. What can you tell us about what you're seeing and what you're reporting on?
Absolutely. So in fact, the screenshot that's highlighted now shows that on-site workers are more restless. 60% of them are looking to change industries. Hybrid, that drops to 55%. Fully remote, that's at 52%. So I think the implications of that are, if you get the flexibility of working in the environment you want, whether that's your home or whether that's a destination away from your home, that's going to add to your comfort, your feeling that life is working the way you want it to. And if you're on site, then you've got more stresses. You've got a commute, which obviously hybrid and remote workers don't. You may also find that some of the protocols of getting onto the work site are stressful for you. So, there's been a lot of excitement among workers of the appeal of remote and hybrid work, and our data bears that out. People in those categories are just less restless. They're more likely to say, I'm satisfied with the situation I have now.
Makes sense. And I actually had my first foray into the office this week, and similar pain points of don't really miss the commute, but man, it sure was nice to see people and interact in person. And
yeah, it's a split picture, right? There are things we really like about the workplace. There are things that, especially right now, it's a little bit more challenging.
Absolutely. Let's say hello to some more members. Bobby from North Carolina, Ruby from Arizona, and Roger from Miami. Thank you so much for joining in today. And Jason from California says that he's not looking to change roles, but he's really interested in how that transition could occur. Vanessa is saying that employees want a job that helps them align with purposes and values. So it sounds like, there are people who are out there who are considering their next move. Maybe they want to jump into something else and they're still figuring out exactly what that path might be. But there are also people, sort of like you and I, George, who are staying put in their jobs. They're happy where they're at. They're satisfied in their career. What are some of the other reasons why people are not choosing to change jobs or switch industries?
So a lot of it is people feel they can build up their skills where they are. They've got expertise and it's growing. And I think that sense of still being able to grow in the job is a plus. So that's an appealing one. Stability too. I mean, relocating the first month in a new job is always kind of bewildering. There's so much stuff that you don't know. There's a whole new culture to get the hang of. And for some people, that's exciting. But for others, the feeling is stay with what I've got. I know how to handle it. And particularly if you feel that you're either on an explicit career track or you're just getting better at what you do. And at some point, you ought to get a raise for it, or you ought to be able to negotiate a more appealing work arrangement. If you're in sales, you get a better book of clients, whatever the transition is. I think that sense of room to grow in your current job is crucial. And when that stalls out, when people feel this is as good as it's ever going to get, then people start to think, where else could I go?
You raise an interesting point about raises and the negotiating power that workers have right now. Are we seeing those who are staying put in their jobs, putting that to use and going to their current bosses, managers, and saying, hey, I would love to stay, but I'm going to need a little bit more money on the table?
We're certainly seeing some very large employers that are bumping up pay across the board. I mean, Amazon has made several announcements in that direction. We're seeing a lot of places that are offering sign-on bonuses, and those go not just to the new employee, but they also go to the referrer. So, you can make a little extra money by referring people to come in and work. And we do have substantial labor shortages. I mean, there are close to 10 million positions that are unfilled in the US right now. So, one way to make a little more money is to find the people that your employer needs and to pick up whatever your $300, $500 referral bonus is. That's not happening everywhere, but it's happening at a lot more places than it was a year ago.
Absolutely. Employers need to find new avenues of getting more people in the door with this labor shortage. We have a member question from Karina, who is asking, how easy or hard has it been to switch or change your career?
So in a lot of places, it's pretty easy now. And you can walk in and the question is, when can you start? I had an interesting experience this week trying to find a bank that was open that could give me enough cash to pay a contractor. I was at 3 different branches, and I go up to a bank Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. and I'm told it's closed. Since when do banks be closed in the middle of Wednesday morning? But that's the way it is. There are labor shortages. They're not able to keep all their branches open. So in that kind of environment, you can make things happen pretty quickly. I mean, the help wanted signs are everywhere. You can see them online. You can see them in the physical world. So the opportunities to start afresh are substantial.
That's fascinating that we are seeing this labor shortage happening, not just in the service sector where, you see the very obvious hiring signs at restaurants and barber stores, but also in these white collar jobs of banks. That I can't imagine a bank branch being closed at Wednesday in the middle of the morning.
It took me completely by surprise too. And then, of course, restaurants that have whole seating areas that are off because they don't have enough staff to cover the whole restaurant. Try finding a dry cleaner that's open. That is actually a hard hunt now. And that's a profession that had tremendous strains during the pandemic. People just basically stopped getting their clothes dry cleaned. And there are far fewer of them now. So we've got a lot of gaps in the economy, a lot of things that need to be filled. It still feels like almost the way, you try and focus on a picture and the lens is out of focus. It feels like the economy is a little out of focus too.
It's a great analogy. Now, Elaine is in the stream and she's commenting about how easy it is to leave when the benefits and the pay are low. Leaving seems like a winning option then. She has a bit to say about employers that they did this to themselves and underpaying, not offering training, expecting long hours, reducing retirement. These were all trends that we saw for many years before the pandemic hit. Is this a situation where employers kind of reap what they sow?
It's interesting. Some employers realize when they've got a shortage, paying more, offering better pay is a way to solve it. Some of them, it's the last thing that occurs to them. They keep wanting to go back to an environment where people were desperate for a job, where they were begging. And it really takes several months of just having an unfilled seat at a desk, having a unfilled station at a cash register for them to realize, no, whatever we're offering, if we're offering 14 an hour, we need to go to 16. If we're offering 17, we need to go to 20. And there's something in a certain set of employers' minds that the idea of paying more to their employees is just really hard for their heads to get around. But the market will speak to them. I mean, the signals come in, and we're starting to see pay levels go up. The inflation question has come into the picture, and one of the things that's happening is people are getting paid more. So It isn't moving as fast as some people would like, but it looks like there's more momentum to go. People are looking for more money at their jobs.
Sounds like we could be at the beginning of a great renaissance for workers and an overall shift in the economy in the years to come. Now, I want to know, and Gigi is in the stream also asking, has this changed the hiring process and how companies are interviewing potential workers?
So we've done some analysis of how long it takes to get a job, and we found that it's about 40 days in between when you first spot the ad and reply to when your start day happens. And it varies by industry. Technical fields, it tends to be almost 50 days. Sales tends to be faster. There's no reason hiring can't happen more quickly, and you just need a certain amount of time to do reference checks. But once people are eligible to work and want to start, we could move that up more quickly. So I think the demand is there, the pressures to staff up are there. I would like to see that time compress. And I think the urgency, the feeling that there's sales that are not happening because people are not working for you, that's a powerful motivator to make hiring go quicker.
I want to thank you, George, for joining us today, giving us all these valuable insights as always. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Jordan. Glad to do it.
That was LinkedIn News Senior Editor at Large, George Anders, and thank all of you for tuning in today. You can continue the conversation or check out other stories to the right of your feed, or if you're on mobile, click into the search box. Tomorrow, my colleague Andrew Seaman will be speaking with Crystal Barrow about the ins and outs of changing careers. I'm Jordan Dahl. Thank you for watching LinkedIn News Live.